You've been taught to be understanding, to give the benefit of the doubt, to not take things personally, to recognize that people say things they don't mean when they're upset. And all of that is true to a point. But there's a line. And certain phrases, when they're spoken, they cross it. Not because they're mean, not because they hurt your feelings, but because they reveal something fundamental about how someone sees you, about what they believe they can get away with, about whether they view you as someone whose boundaries matter. And when those phrases come out, when you hear them said to you with full intent, your job isn't to understand or forgive or make excuses. Your job is to recognize that you've just been shown exactly who you're dealing with and to act accordingly, not with rage, not with retaliation, but with the quiet clarity that some things, once said, change everything. And pretending they don't is just another way of teaching people that your dignity is negotiable. The first phrase is any variation of, "You're not man enough." It doesn't matter how it's phrased. A real man would. "My ex never had a problem with this." Maybe you're just not capable. It's all the same thing. It's an attempt to shame you into compliance by attacking your identity as a man. And here's what you need to understand. Anyone who weaponizes your masculinity against you is telling you they don't respect it. They're telling you they see your manhood as something conditional, something you have to earn through meeting their demands, something they can revoke if you don't perform the way they want. And that belief that your worth as a man is determined by how well you serve their needs, that's not something you can negotiate. That's not something you can fix by proving yourself. Because the problem isn't that you failed some test of manhood. The problem is they believe your manhood is theirs to judge. And people who think that way don't stop. They just keep moving the goalposts. Keep finding new ways you're not enough. Keep using your identity as leverage. And you don't fix that. You walk away from it. The second phrase is, "You're lucky to have me." Or any version that implies you should be grateful for their presence. That you're getting more than you deserve. That they're doing you a favor by being with you. And what this reveals is a fundamental imbalance in how the relationship is perceived. She sees herself as the prize and you as the lucky recipient, which means every conflict becomes about whether you're worthy of keeping her. Every disagreement becomes you defending your value. Every boundary you set becomes you risking the gift of her presence. And relationships built on that foundation don't get better. They get worse. Because once someone believes they're doing you a favor by being there, they'll expect you to show gratitude through constant accommodation, through tolerating things you shouldn't tolerate, through shrinking yourself to prove you understand how fortunate you are. And that's not partnership, that's servitude. And you don't owe anyone gratitude for basic presence. You owe gratitude for mutual respect, genuine care, actual partnership. And if those things aren't there, if all she's offering is the fact of her existence and expecting you to be grateful for it, you're not lucky, you're trapped. And recognizing that isn't pessimism, it's clarity. The third phrase is any threat to leave during conflict. Maybe we should just break up. I don't know if I can do this anymore. This isn't working. Not when it's said after careful consideration, but when it's weaponized. When it's thrown out in the middle of an argument as leverage. When it's designed to make you back down, apologize, chase, prove your commitment. Because what that phrase does is turn your attachment into a weakness she can exploit. It says, "I know you don't want to lose this, so I'm going to threaten loss until you give me what I want." And maybe it works. Maybe you do back down. Maybe you do apologize for things that weren't your fault. Maybe you do chase. But here's what you're teaching, that threatening abandonment is an effective strategy. And once that's established, it becomes the default. Every conflict becomes about whether the relationship will survive, instead of about the actual issue. And you can't build anything stable on that foundation, because you're not dealing with problems. You're just constantly preventing dissolution. And that's exhausting. And it's also manipulative. And the moment someone uses the threat of leaving as a tool to control you, they've shown you they value winning more than they value the relationship. And that's not someone you should be fighting to keep. The fourth phrase is, "You're too sensitive" or "you're overreacting." Not when you actually are, but when you're expressing legitimate hurt and she's dismissing it rather than addressing it. When you've been disrespected, and instead of acknowledging it, she's making your reaction the problem. Because what this does is gaslight you about your own experience. It tells you that your feelings aren't valid, that your perception is wrong, that the problem isn't what she did but how you responded. And this is particularly insidious because men are already conditioned to not express hurt, to not admit when something bothers them. And when you finally do, when you finally voice that something wasn't okay, and the response is to tell you you're being too sensitive, you learn not to speak up. You learn to absorb things silently. You learn that your hurt doesn't matter as much as her comfort with not being held accountable. And relationships where one person's feelings are consistently invalidated don't improve. They just create resentment that builds until it explodes, or until one person completely shuts down emotionally. And neither of those outcomes is acceptable. So when someone tells you you're too sensitive for having boundaries, for expressing hurt, for expecting basic respect, they're telling you they need you to be less aware of mistreatment so they can continue mistreating you. And that's not something you forgive, that's something you exit. The fifth phrase is anything that compares you negatively to another man, her ex, her father, some friend's boyfriend, some celebrity, anyone. Because what that comparison does is tell you that you're being measured against an external standard and found wanting, that she's holding an image of what she wants you to be and you're failing to match it. And maybe the comparison is about money, looks, ambition, emotional availability, whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that she's telling you she's thinking about other men as superior options and you should be working to compete. And that's not love. That's not even respect. That's someone keeping you in a state of insecurity, so you'll keep performing. Keep trying to measure up. Keep proving yourself against ghosts and fantasies and men who aren't even in the room. And you can't win that competition. Because the standard isn't real, it's just a tool to keep you striving, to keep you off balance, to keep you feeling like you're not quite enough, so you'll keep trying harder. And relationships that run on that dynamic don't lead anywhere good. They lead to you exhausting yourself trying to become someone else while she keeps moving the target. And the moment someone compares you unfavorably to another man, they've told you they're not choosing you. They're settling for you while wishing you were someone else. And that's not a relationship, that's purgatory. And you deserve better. The sixth phrase is, I can't help how I feel. Used not as a statement of vulnerability, but as a justification for behavior. Has an excuse for treating you poorly, for breaking agreements, for doing things that hurt you while absolving herself of responsibility. Because feelings don't excuse actions. You can feel however you feel and still be accountable for how you treat people. You can be attracted to someone else and still not cheat. You can be frustrated and still not be cruel. You can be uncertain and still honor your commitments until you're clear. But when someone uses their feelings as a blanket excuse for harmful behavior, when they act like their emotional state removes their agency, they're telling you they're not willing to be responsible, that their feelings matter more than their impact, that you're supposed to accept whatever they do because they couldn't help it. And that's not how adults operate. Adults feel things and still make choices, still exercise restraint, still consider consequences. And when someone refuses that responsibility, when they act like their feelings are forces beyond their control, they're telling you they're not a safe person to be vulnerable with. Because they'll hurt you and then tell you it wasn't their fault. They felt a certain way and couldn't help themselves. And you're supposed to understand, supposed to absorb the damage, supposed to forgive because feelings are involuntary, but behavior isn't. And refusing to separate feelings from actions is a refusal to be accountable. And you can't build trust with someone who won't be accountable. Here's what these 6 phrases have in common. They all reveal a lack of fundamental respect. They all tell you that your boundaries, your feelings, your worth, your identity, they're all negotiable. They're all subject to her needs, her moods, her standards, her feelings. And when you forgive these phrases, when you accept them and continue as if they don't mean anything, you're teaching her that disrespect works, that she can say these things and face no consequences, that your dignity has no price. And maybe you think you're being mature, being understanding, being the bigger person, but what you're actually doing is training someone to treat you worse. Because every time you forgive what shouldn't be forgiven, every time you accept what shouldn't be accepted, you're resetting the baseline for what's tolerable. And it keeps getting worse, not better. because people don't respect boundaries they're allowed to violate. So what do you do when you hear these phrases? You don't explode, you don't fight, you don't try to make her understand why it's unacceptable. You just recognize what you've been shown. You've been shown that this person doesn't respect you at a fundamental level, and you can't negotiate respect. You can't argue someone into valuing your dignity. You can't make someone see you as an equal if they've already decided you're beneath them. So you stop trying, you stop explaining, you stop hoping they'll change, and you start planning your exit. Not in anger, not in retaliation, just with the clear understanding that some things, once revealed, can't be unseen. And these phrases reveal that you're in a dynamic that's not going to improve. That's only going to extract more of your dignity if you stay. And walking away from that isn't giving up. It's choosing yourself. It's deciding that your self-respect matters more than maintaining a relationship with someone who doesn't respect you. And that's not something you should ever apologize for. That's something you should protect at all costs. Because once you teach people they can talk to you this way, once you accept these phrases as just things said in anger or stress or frustration, you've given away something you can't get back: your dignity, your boundaries, your sense that you deserve basic respect, and no relationship is worth that cost, none, ever.